Hey guys, it's Preston Murphy here, team owner of the Harmon Murphy Group, powered by Keller Williams Realty, as well as the team leader of KDB Gulf Coast, both of these companies right here in beautiful Pensacola, Florida. And so today I wanted to talk about something that affects every single thing that you and I purchase, and that is trade policy and tariffs. And because it seems like we simply cannot get away from this buzzword of tariffs, right? Whether it's on the podcast or in a blog or even on your local news channel, I thought that we would dive a little deep into tariffs today and just overall trade policy, such that you can begin to do your own research and determine for yourself whether or not you believe that the Trump administration is doing right by the American consumer. That's not for me to decide. I just want to give you a broader understanding. So, what the heck even is a tariff? Well, ultimately, a tariff, right, is just simply a fancy word to showcase and notate that it is a government imposed tax on imported goods. Now, it's really important for you to recognize and understand that the importer is the entity that actually pays the tariff to the federal government. Now, there are five reasons for tariffs, five reasons why a government might impose tariffs on certain countries. Number one would just simply be revenue, right? So, revenue meaning that the government is going to collect money on those tariffs. Number two would be about protecting infant industry. So, this really just helps new businesses compete against bigger international companies that maybe already have a stronghold in that particular industry. Number three is ultimately going to be about protecting established industries. So this really just stops unfair competition from countries that maybe have cheaper labor as compared to the United States just due to our standard of living. Number four would be all about national security. So ensuring that the key industries, something like military technology, if you will, that IP, that intellectual property, stays here domestically and does not end up in the hands of maybe foreign adversaries that could use that against us. And then also number five would be political leverage. So this is really just tariffs can pressure countries to change certain policies. And if you've kept up with the news, you might feel as though this is the particular strategy that the Trump administration might be using to have, right, Mexico and Canada and China change some of their policies related to the United States. Now, there are two types of tariffs. Number one would be targeted tariffs. There's a specific schedule of goods, so a specific list of goods coming from another country that are taxed at a specific rate. This is the most common form of tariff. And then, of course, there are also blanket tariffs, which would just say that all goods coming from another country are all taxed at the same exact rate. And that's really unprecedented here in the United States. Now, I love this particular slide because it really just shows you kind of the life cycle. Let me move this out of the way. The sort of the life cycle of tariffs. Number one would be, right, country A levels tariffs on foreign goods from country B. And number two would be imported goods from country B become more expensive in country A. So let's use an example. Let's just say that in the spirit of Taco Tuesday, you're going to leave the office this afternoon and you are going to go run by your favorite grocery store. Maybe you go to Publix and you are going to make guacamole for tonight's dinner. And so last week you paid $2 per avocado, and this week you paid $2.25, and you're like, what in the heck just happened? Well, that would be that if the United States placed a tariff on avocados, right, fresh produce coming from Mexico, and you went to Publix, and Publix actually had to pay that tariff on those avocados coming from Mexico. Guess what? Publix is not going to take, in most cases, a hit to their own profit margin. They're going to pass off those additional expenses to the consumer, and the consumer is the one who's going to pay the higher price, right? That is really what number one and two are talking about. Number three, let's just say that country B retaliates with their own tariff. So Mexico gets a little infuriated, right? They get a little upset, and they decide that they are going to actually retaliate with tariffs of their own on goods coming from the United States into their country. And that's what you see right there, number four. Country A, so the United States exports become more expensive in country B. In Mexico. So number five, importers, exporters, and consumers in both countries begin to suffer, right? Number six, the overall trade falls. Number seven, economic downturn occurs for every single person. And then, of course, number eight, politicians in both countries begin to call for protectionist sort of measures. So moving on here, let's go to, I've got some notes here that I wanted to share with you. So as we go a little further, I just wanted you to see the sources of U.S. government revenue over the past 2 centuries. So starting here back in 1820, you can see that the vast majority of the revenue that we brought into the United States, into our government, came from customs duties. So that would be tariffs, right? And of course, some of it might have come from the sale of public lands. Well, up until about 1862, that was, right, that was the highest percentage, if you will, of revenue that we received in the United States government, until President Abraham Lincoln started to enact the first wartime income tax. Remember, up until that point, we didn't have income taxes, and that's really what shows up right here in this green section. Other than that, some of the income that we had came from excise taxes. So taxes on things like tobacco, taxes on things like alcohol, taxes today, right, on things like gasoline. And so, but you can also see here the pink line is beginning to dwindle, which meant that ultimately we stopped selling public land here in the United States. And then in 1913, you can see that the 16th Amendment empowered Congress to levy income taxes. And from 1913 till today, the vast majority of the revenue that we actually receive here in the United States comes from income taxes. And of course, the sort of lighter blue here would be Social Security taxes. But I would also like you to see here that the gold, the yellow, these would be the customs duty, so i.e. the tariffs really begin to dwindle. So there is not a significant amount of revenue that we generate here in the United States that actually comes from tariffs, okay? So I'll leave you with this. Why does all this matter? Well, because tariffs impact prices, they impact jobs, it impacts the overall economy. And so the next time that you hear about a trade war, you will know exactly what's going on and how it affects your bottom dollar, right? Your wallet. And so I hope that you found this information relevant. I hope you found it timely. I hope you're a little bit smarter on the terminology related to tariffs. And from here, you can go do your own research to decide for yourself whether or not the Trump administration is doing right by the American consumer. And for all of you that are looking to buy and sell and invest in real estate here in the Pensacola area and the surrounding areas, I just appreciate being your economist of choice. And for me, I just feel like our highest calling is to make sure that when I show up at your house, I can give you a broader perspective of the overall economy and, of course, what's happening here in our local area such that you can make a smarter decision to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. If you need anything from me, feel free to reach out, shoot me a direct message, give me a like, give me a comment, call me on my cell phone, 850-380-0571, and I'll talk to you real soon.